What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Before I get too deep into this video, you already know what I'm going to say. Be sure to comment, be sure to like, and be sure to subscribe. On the road to 2,000 subscribers, and I can't do it without your help. So go ahead and smash that like button, because you see we pushing out the content daily. And why wouldn't you hit that subscribe button to catch the most raw, uncut, and unfiltered analysis on your Washington Commanders? And without further ado, let's get into this video. Today is Tuesday, August the 27th, 2024, and it's such a sad day across the entire NFL. This is a day that looms heavy across, as I mentioned, the entire league. This was cut down day across the entire NFL. So long gone are the days of the multiple cuts. You know, we used to get 3 or 4 cuts, trimming it down from 90 to 75 to 65 to 53. No, now they just Grim Reaper style go straight from 90-man rosters to 53-man rosters. So there's about what 37 guys that dreams are being shattered today. But, you know, it's all a part of the journey. Some guys will still, you know, persevere and be able to get back into the league. And some guys, it was their last day playing football. So, yeah, it's a rather heavy day across the entire NFL. But it is a day where we see the Commanders that made it out of training camp and, you know, the guys that made it on our initial 2024 roster set for the season. And I said that it's the initial, 53-man roster because this roster is fluid at this point. There's so many things that can be done to this roster. It's in a transition state right now. We have the second overall pick, we're second in line on the waiver wire. So I think that we're going to be getting a good player because there were some notable names that were cut across the league today. So yeah, this is the official initial 53-man roster, but I wouldn't get too comfortable with some of the names on the roster because I do think that there's a little bit more willing and dealing, dotting of the I's, crossing of the T's that can be done to this roster before we head into our week 1 matchup with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But yeah, I wanted to get into this video and get my reaction to our 53-man roster. I gave my final 53-man roster projection yesterday, so if you haven't gotten a chance, go ahead and check that video out, and let's see how accurate I was. So the team actually ended up keeping 3 quarterbacks. It was never a shadow and a doubt in my mind that Marcus Mariota was making the team. We know Jalen Daniels is the franchise quarterback, and they did decide to keep Jeff Driscoll. I was under the opinion or under the impression that Jeff Driscoll's last game was a little rough, and I'm not sure that he did enough over the entire duration of the preseason to, hold a claim to a roster spot, but he did. And I'm not upset about that because I do think that he's a scheme fit. Because I do think that we're going to be running the ball a lot at the quarterback position, and I think that's probably the best thing that Jeff Driscoll does as a quarterback right now. Sam Hartman was cut. I know there were rumors that, the team was looking to, put him on the practice squad if he cleared waivers and things of that nature. But at this point, they pretty much tell everybody that. I do think that Sam Hartman is a likely candidate to end up on the practice squad. But I just want to put that out there. If you guys see, like, a player get cut and it's like, oh, the team is looking to be brought back or bring him back in on the practice squad, just know that they tell just about everybody that. So some of them hold a lot more weight than others. We decided to keep 3 running backs. Brian Robinson was a shoo-in, as is Austin Eckler. But Jeremy McNichols makes the team over my guy, my preseason darling, the guy I was ready to give the Marcus Mason preseason award to, and that is Michael Wiley. Now, this is the first move that I don't like, and I know it's in AP we trust, and I've been a fan of damn near every move that Adam Peters has made to this point. This is probably the first move that I don't like. Because you can't tell me that you had 2 eyes, and you understand football, and you think that Jeremy McNichols had more juice than Michael Wiley. As I told you before, the reason why, I had Michael Wiley making the team in the pre-training camp 53-man roster projection is because he's such a scheme fit. We're going to be running a lot of RPO, and guess what? His scheme fit and his analytical numbers translated onto the field. He was a touchdown magnet, and I think he had more juice than any other offensive player on the offensive side of the board throughout the entire duration of the preseason. Now, I know he was going against a lot of second and third tier guys, but he had more juice than Jeremy McNichols. I don't know if Jeremy McNichols is Peyton Barber 2.0, where they like him for his short yardage situations, but he's not a huge back. You see here, he's 5'9", 205 pounds. I don't know if he's elite in pass protection, but I know he did spend some time with the San Francisco 49ers. So he might have that edge and just knowing Adam Peters a little bit more. But Chris Rodriguez also got cut. And I've been thinking Chris Rodriguez was cooked for a couple of weeks. As I mentioned before, if you heard his interview with Mitch Tischler, he's been knowing he was cooked for a couple of weeks, talking about the impact that he can make on special teams, not necessarily being a special teams player, but being kind of forced into that role this year. And yeah, I don't think that he'll be brought back on the practice squad either, because I don't think that this regime and this front office viewed him in a favorable light coming out of the 2023 draft. With the wide receivers, we kept 6 wide receivers. De'Ami Brown, Luke McCaffrey, Byron Pringle, Olamide Zaccheaus, Terry McLaurin, and Jamison Crowder. I think all of these guys are pretty much shoo-ins except Jamison Crowder after the Jahan Dotson trade. I thought that the team was going to find a way to put Kaz Allen, or force a way to put Kaz Allen on this roster. As I mentioned last week, Cliff Kingsbury mentioned or compared him to Deebo Samuel, and I just didn't think that they just wanted to let that go. Because Deebo Samuel, when he's healthy, is one of the best players in the NFL. I don't think he's a top 10 receiver. I don't think he's a top 10 running back. But when you combine that and just put him in the package of a football player, I think he might be top 10 in the entire NFL just for what he does with, the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm not comparing Kaz Allen to Deebo Samuel by any means. They're a lot different just simply looking at them as far as their stature and things like that. But I think that Kaz can do a lot with the ball in his hands, but you got to catch the ball first, bro. You got to catch the ball first. And I don't know how much longer we're going to go through this Kaz Allen experiment, because his hands was the reason that he didn't make the team last year. I think, honestly, last year he showed more explosive plays in the preseason. He just didn't make the team because he had trouble fielding punts and, being that special team guy, that guy that they can rely on to at least secure the possession. But yeah, he just didn't show. I don't know what he was out there showing in Ashburn every day where they were talking him up to compare him to a guy like, Deebo Samuel, but it just wasn't translating to the games. Moving on to the tight ends. We actually did end up keeping 4 tight ends, and one of the tight ends that we actually kept was undrafted free agent Colson Yankoff from UCLA. I think this the reason that he was chosen over a guy like Cole Turner, who did end up being cut, is that I think that he kind of gives you that positional versatility that Ben Sinnott can give you. He's a little more light in the ass, about 20 pounds less than Ben Sinnott, but I think that he can play that H-back role, that fullback role, that motion move tight end role that can seal the edge. And he showed pretty reliable hands. He had less drops than Cole Turner. And this is a guy that they were talking up at the beginning of camp. I just overlooked it because I thought that either Armani Rogers or Cole Turner was for a shoo-in to get that 4th tight end spot if we were to go with 4 tight ends. But Colson Yankoff yanked that shit right off him. Colson Yankoff did what his name said and yanked that shit right off Cole Turner and Armani Rogers. And the other tight ends that made it was Ben Sinnott, Zach Ertz, and John Bates, pretty much shoo-ins. And the offensive linemen that made it: Michael Dieter, Tyler Biadasz, Nick Allegretti, Andrew Wiley, Trent Scott, Brandon Coleman, Chris Paul, Sam Cosmi, and Cornelius Lucas. Not necessarily a huge surprise here. I guess the biggest notables is that 2023 draft picks Braden Daniels and Ricky Stromberg did not make the team. I thought that Ricky Stromberg might have had a decent chance of making it with his positional versatility. And I think that Braden Daniels, I still think that he has a chance of making the practice squad, because I think that he's just a developmental piece. He didn't really show anything as a rookie. Matter of fact, I was there when he was out of shape, sucking up wind in the mini camp, after drills in mini camp during his rookie year. And then, like I said in my last episode, he just vanished off of the face of the earth. But I think he showed well in a couple of his reps this preseason, and I think he's just a developmental piece. He's a good athlete that has to just put on more pounds. He came into the NFL at about 290 pounds, and I don't think that's going to cut it in 2024 unless your technique is elite when you're going against behemoth of men playing that 3-tech, that 5-tech, that 1-tech position. So just touching on the offense, that'll round out the offense. It's interesting to see what Cliff Kingsbury, how he's going to adapt as a play caller. His foundation, and he came up running a lot of air raid. But as I mentioned before, I think that we're going to be running the ball a lot. I think that this, offense is going to be tight end centric, and that's going to be a far cry from, what, Cliff Kingsbury has ran in his time as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. I mean, as a head coach in the NFL or offensive coordinator in college football. The air raid, they run a lot of 4 and 5 wide receiver sets. Well, shit, we only got 6 wide receivers on the roster. So unless you want these dudes up there sucking wind all day, he's going to have to adapt. He's going to have to adapt. I think he's going to be running a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, but we'll be foolish to think that he's not going to have some air raid principles and some air raid concepts. I know he got a little standoffish and scoffed at the fact that he was just an air raid coach in his, pre-training camp presser. But Cliff, come on, bro. That's your bread and butter. That's your bread and butter. We know that that's what you make your money on. So we'll be foolish, even if he has a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, to think that he's not going to have some air raid principles or concepts. So that's 3 running backs, 3 quarterbacks, 6 wide receivers. So that's 12 offensive players, 4 tight ends. That's 16 with 9 linemen. So they kept 25 offensive players. Now move to the defensive side of the ball, where they kept 9 defensive linemen, with Jamin Davis being listed as a defensive lineman. I had us keeping 10, but both 2023 draft picks again, KJ Henry and Andre Jones Jr. did not make the team. And y'all know I'm a Jamin Davis fan because I think that he's just such a physical freak that if you just line up and tell him to go chase the ball, he can do that at the NFL level. But I did not have on my bingo card this morning Jamin Davis making the team over KJ Henry. So the cutting of the 2 defensive linemen, along with the cutting of the 2 offensive linemen that were 2023 draft picks, just continues to go along the lines of the purging of the Ron Rivera era. If you didn't know now, if you couldn't tell, you should be able to tell now that Adam Peters is trying to remove himself as far as away from the stench of Ron Rivera as possible. And I know that last year, in that interview, I think it was with Mike Silver, that Ron said if he gets cut in the later years down the line, that we have a lot of the players that he drafted in, send him his Super Bowl ring. Kiss my ass, bro. Kiss my ass. What even made you parse your lips to say that shit, bro? The only ring I'm giving you is a fucking ring pop. Because we see that Adam Peters has, it's 33 guys that made the initial 53 this year that weren't on the roster last year. That's about 60%. So if the purging of this roster is going to keep continuing, we can look up next year and not even notice or not even recognize half the dudes on this team. Like, kiss my ass, Ron. The audacity, the unmitigated gall to say that shit. Moving on to the linebackers, they kept 5 linebackers with a caveat, as I mentioned in my episode of the projection, the 53-man projection. Frankie Louvu, Dante Fowler Jr. was listed as a linebacker. Michael Walker, Dominique Hampton, and Bobby Wagner. Jordan McGee was placed on the short-term IR, so the team has to be able to, determine when he can come back. He's not out for the season, but he will miss the first couple of games. But it was interesting to see Dante Fowler and Dominique Hampton listed as linebackers, and I think that's just simply for the optics. I think that Dante Fowler is going to be a pass rusher. I don't see him standing up off the ball a lot. He's going to be an edge rusher. Do I see him rushing from the 2-point stance from time to time? Absolutely, but I think he's going to be more defensive end than anything else. I think that's just for the optics, not having the numbers game look too wonky, because in reality, I think that they listed Dom Hampton as a linebacker to just say that we simply didn't have 7 safeties on the roster, because that sounds a little insane. And I'm not saying that like it's a bad thing. Positional versatility is, will reign supreme in the modern day NFL. But, a guy like Dom Hampton, who was playing a lot of linebacker, this is a guy that was brought in as a safety. He didn't play a lot of linebacker at the University of Washington. So he's making that transition But we kept 7 safeties. I did not think that both Jeremy Reeves and Derek Forrest were going to make this team, but they did. And I think that that's going to be key to, the type of depth, the pedigree of depth that we've had. Because if you've looked at a lot of Washington rosters over the course of the last 25 years, yeah, we've been top heavy, but we haven't had shit behind them. We haven't had second or third stringers, and I think the tide is changing. So I'm not mad at us keeping 7 safeties by any means, even if Dom Hampton is listed as a linebacker. It's just unusual to see that. The team did keep 5, and I also think that they did that because having 12 defensive backs listed is a little crazy. It looks a little crazy when you're looking at the roster. But they did keep 5 corners with Mikey Sammerstill, Emmanuel Forbes, Noah Igbenigbe. I tried. Benjamin St. Juste and Michael Davis making the roster. And I honestly think that is where they might pluck off the waiver wire with, them being second in line. I know guys like, I think CJ Johnson was cut from the Panthers today. And I think some decent cornerbacks that are better than some of the guys that made our initial 53 were let go. So I think that's, if anything, if we dibble and dabble on the waiver wire, I think that we might look at that cornerback room and edge rusher as well. And then the specialists, Tyler Ott, Tressway, and K. York all made the team. No surprises there. But yeah, that'll do it. That's the initial 53-man roster. Let me know how you feel about this roster. Is there any guys that you were surprised? Are you surprised by a guy like Javonte Jean-Baptiste making the team over KJ Henry and Andre Jones Jr.? Are you surprised by a guy like Kaz Allen not making the team after they talked him up all offseason? How you feel about us keeping 6 wide receivers? What do you think about Carlson Yankov making that team over Cole Turner? Like I said, he just yanked that shit right up off of him. But yeah, that'll do it. I'm excited. Football season is here. Now I know the 53-minute I'm going to be cheering for, or the majority of the minute I'm going to be cheering for come week 1 or come week 2 when we boots on the ground in Northwest Stadium. I think that's the new stadium name, with the new naming rights being, announced today and agreed to. So yeah, let me know how you feel about the roster. Keep checking into the channel, and I'll check in on y'all later. Peace.